Okay, I guess we can carry on now. So we have had a look at 3 of the 6 Saraniya Dhamma, the warm-hearted qualities as he has translated it, Bhante Sujato. So we're going to have a look at the last 3 here. Furthermore, a mendicant shares without reservation any material things they have gained by legitimate means, even the food placed in their alms bowl, using them in common with their ethical spiritual companions. So you share everything you have with your spiritual companions. There is a strange thing in the Vinaya, monastic Vinaya, called Visasa. Visasa means Visasa means it's like giving a permission to someone. What is the kind of usual translation again? Visasa means that you allow someone basically to take whatever they want that is yours. So if Ajahn Brahm has said this, if you ever need anything, you can just go into Makuti and take whatever you want. Okay, that's kind of nice. It's a very kind of open-hearted way of being with your fellow monastics. And this is kind of the way they used to live in those days. When you had a close friend or whatever, you had visasa. And that means you can just take whatever is theirs, at any time. And so this is kind of the ideal way, sharing without reservation, without holding back any material things that you need. If you need a robe, just go in Makuta and grab my robe. So that's kind of can happen. It can be a bit awkward if you don't have one robe, but nevertheless. That you have gained by legitimate means, that has been given to you in the right way. You haven't achieved this by some dodgy means or some bad way. It's a legitimate thing. And even the food placed in your alms bowl, you share that with someone else. Maybe you have received something that someone else has not, and then you share that with others. And this creates a very kind of positive feeling among people when you are absolutely generous with everything you have. It creates a very kind of feeling of trust and of harmony and commonality when you do this. And I remember the one place the Buddha says, just talking about generosity here, he says that if you knew the power of generosity, you would never have a single meal without sharing something here. Never have a single meal without sharing something here. That's kind of extraordinary. So it means you take every opportunity to share if you can. The idea of being generous with your fellows in the spiritual path, using them in common with their ethical spiritual companions. So this is all about generosity and how that creates that sense of unity and harmony in the spiritual community here. Furthermore, a mendicant lives according to the precepts shared with the spiritual companions, both in public and in private. Those precepts are intact, impeccable, spotless and unmarred, liberating, praised by sensible people, not mistaken, and leading to stillness. So this is actually part of the usual prescription for how to do the sila nusati, the recollection of sila, is a similar kind of thing. But when you live in common with shared precepts, it also leads to a sense of harmony. You're all heading in the same direction together, following the same path. And so usually if you have someone in the monastery who is really dodgy, who doesn't practice properly, normally either you ask them to change or you ask them to leave. That's usually how it works, because it's very hard to live with someone who doesn't share your ideals in terms of what is appropriate way of living. And again, you do it in public and in private. And then the sequence that comes afterwards here, this is the sequence that is often used to describe how you do this properly. The precepts that are intact, impeccable, spotless and unmarred. All of this is about doing your very best, not kind of slipping up, seeing danger in the slightest fault that we saw before. All of that is part of that. You live to the highest possible ethical integrity here. And then you have liberating, Buddhista, that these precepts liberate you. Actually, we did talk about this, I think, did we talk about this? I can't remember. Buddhista, they are liberating. Yeah, so the idea is that if you practice these precepts properly, they also liberate you at the same time. First of all, the liberation, if you do it with your fellow monastics, is the liberation from quarrels and arguments. Then there is the liberation that you feel good about yourself. You don't feel bad about yourself. You don't berate yourself or talk yourself down or whatever. But you're liberated from that negative feelings of yourself. Then you are liberated in the sense that you feel that other people treat you well because you treat others well. You tend to see others in the way that you see yourself. So if you are kind, you tend to see society as kind. That is liberating in that way. Then it is liberating because it leads to meditation and samadhi. Yeah, it leads to those higher kind of liberations. The Ceto Vimuttis that we have been talking about all along, the liberations of the mind, they're liberating like that. There's this vast variety of liberating characteristics that you find by practicing sila in the right way, in common with your spiritual companions. So very kind of powerful in that particular way. Then they are praised by sensible people. Vinyu is like wise people, people who know properly. So you are praised by sensible people. The Buddha might praise you. That's kind of nice. Ajahn Brahm might praise you and say, well done, BGF, you are living in the right way. Everyone here doing good things. And so you're praised by those people that matter. And this is kind of an important point, because often we don't distinguish. We want to be praised. We want to be praised by anyone. We just want to be praised, full stop. But the praise of most people is kind of irrelevant, because they don't know what real praise is anyway. So if they praise you for some superficial silliness, actually it's kind of irrelevant. And so you can just forget about it. And you want to be praised by sensible people. Everything else is kind of irrelevant. Don't worry about it. Not mistaken, aparamatta. This, I think, is a mistaken translation. I'm just being a bit silly on purpose, but I think this is not quite right, because what it means, aparamatta, it means not grasped. Not mistaken seems to be not grasped in the wrong way, but it actually means not grasped at all. And the idea here is this is specifically for stream entry, and I'm a little bit concerned that this paragraph should not really be there, that it should have ended after private. But anyway, that is the way it has been handed down to us. If you look at the previous one about generosity, it does not have this passage that normally is found in the Anusatis, but this one does. But anyway, so not mistaken means that you actually don't grasp this kind of morality. It is natural, it is part of who you are, and so it is a natural morality that you follow. So it is not grasped. You don't have to hold on to it, because it just happens automatically when you are a stream enter. And then you have leading to stillness. And again, this idea that we have seen many times already, that when you practice virtue fully, when you really practice your precepts and you practice kindness, then it always leads to stillness. It leads to, in other words, to samadhi. Samadhi happens as a consequence of living that life well. So why is that? Well, because all of this kindness that we're looking at now, that leads to mindfulness. When you are kind, you are mindful because you want to be present and you feel good about yourself. So mindfulness happens automatically. Mindfulness is the result of kindness, and then in turn, that mindfulness imbued with kindfulness, if you like, then leads to samadhi. And so this leads to samadhi via mindfulness. And so again, you can see again and again and again, the suttas point in the same direction with slightly different angles, different variations on the theme, but the theme is the same pretty much all the way through. This is what is so fascinating about the suttas. Very consistent, high degree of integrity here. Okay. Furthermore, a mendicant lives according to the view shared with their spiritual companions, both in public and in private. You share the view. What is that view? That view is noble, emancipating. Emancipating means freeing, and delivers one who practices it to the complete ending of suffering. So this is that view that you share. You live with your spiritual companions with that view, both in public and in private. So this basically means that you are a stream entry, because view is noble. A noble view is the view of the stream entry. It is emancipating. Well, it's liberating. It only becomes fully liberating once you are a stream entry. So this view will take you to liberation. Your view has been rectified. You are dittipato. Dittipato means attained to view. You have attained view. The real view, the right view, the view of reality as it actually is. And that view, that delivers you, it takes you, it drives you, it motivates you, it inspires you to practice all the way to the complete ending of suffering. In fact, that view is so strong, it's so powerful that you have no choice. You will be practicing to the complete ending of suffering, whether you want to or not. In fact, you have no choice but to want that, because you have seen the truth. Once you see the truth, you have to want the results. And that is what the idea of right intention is all about. Wanting the right aim, wanting because you understand what happiness is. So that view, you have that in common with your fellow monastics. So the highest kind of harmony here is between aryas, between stream entries, because they understand the view in the same way, and so they are perfectly aligned with each other, all practicing the Noble Eightfold Path together. So this is the highest of these 6 qualities, but all of them, obviously, the other ones probably matter more in many ways, because they are the path to the last one. This warm-hearted quality makes for fondness and respect, conducing to inclusion, harmony, and unity without quarreling. These 6 warm-hearted qualities make for etc., etc. One more time, it's very repetitive sometimes, exactly the same. This is why people sometimes don't like the suttas, they say it's too repetitive, but there you are. Of these 6 warm-hearted qualities, the chief is the view that is noble and emancipating and delivers one who practices it to the complete ending of suffering. It holds and binds everything together. It's like a bungalow. The roof peak is the chief point, which holds and binds everything together. In the same way, of these 6 warm-hearted qualities, the chief is the view that is noble and emancipating and delivers one who practices it to the complete ending of suffering. It holds and binds everything together. So once you have that view, because you know what is going on, you know now the power of virtue, you understand why you should be generous, you understand why you should be kind at every possibility and do the right thing, both in mind and speech and body, because you know that, because you have seen the power of these things, you cannot really go wrong anymore. That view holds all of these things together. This is the same thing as the Paniyindriya, the faculty of wisdom. The faculty of wisdom is what holds all the other faculties together, and so here it holds everything on the path together. This is why right view is so incredibly important, and that's why we focus on it so much. Even if it is just ordinary worldly right view, it still has some of that ability of holding things together. The full holding together only happens when you become a stream enterer, but it already holds a little bit together prior to that, as you start to understand this path. So, that is kind of interesting. So now we have seen that the right view is what holds everything together. So now we want to discuss a little bit more on the consequences of right view. This is one of the few suttas that talk in quite a bit of detail about what it means to be a stream enterer. What does that right view lead to? What are the qualities of someone who has entered the stream? And when we read this, you will be able to know at the end of this if you are a stream enterer or not. You can see, have I got that quality or not? So we're going to go through it. and see what it says. It's quite interesting because it's quite rare, this sutta, in terms of setting out these qualities. How does that view that is noble and emancipating lead one who practices it to the complete ending of suffering? It's when a mendicant has gone to a wilderness or to the root of a tree or to an empty hut and reflects like this. So again, the idea of going to the wilderness, going to a secluded place, such an important part of the Buddhist path, especially when it comes to meditation practice. And whenever you see this particular wording in the suttas, you know that we're dealing with meditation. It is always said in conjunction with meditation practice. Meditation is what happens in seclusion. Everything else you don't need seclusion for, but meditation you need that seclusion for. So you go to a wilderness, aranyagato. Aranya is not of the king. To the root of a tree, rukamula gato. To an empty hut, sunyagara gato. Sunyagara, an empty hut. This is why monastics often have huts, and hopefully they are empty. Well, but sometimes it's not just people, it's also what other things you have in the hut, right? It's kind of, there are so many things. Ajahn Brahma always tells the story of visiting Ajahn Shah and going into his hut, and you go in and there's almost nothing there. It's like a bowl and there's a robe and it's kind of an empty room pretty much. And if you go and see Ajahn Brahm, have some of you been to Ajahn Brahm's cave in the Buddhanamas? You have in this cave, yeah? And that's really nice when you go and visit him in his cave. Actually, you don't visit him, you just go to the cave. He's not there when you go there usually. And you go inside and there's a mattress on the floor. And then there is like a few things, maybe a torch or something like that. Maybe there's a bat on the wall. So there is like, not a real bat, this is kind of just a toy bat. And a cricket bat. Toy bat and a cricket bat. Yes, it has a cricket because Ajahn Brahm likes to joke around. So the cricket bat may be hanging on the wall there. So bats, and so that's pretty much it. There's I think a dehumidifier and some kind of very basic things like that. But there's almost nothing in there. And if you go to Perth and Ajahn Brahm usually doesn't mind people going to his cave. So if you ever go as your first time, you can ask to go and have a look at his cave. It's really kind of a special place, Ajahn Brahm's cave. It was built by one of the monks. He has left the monastery now, but he spent 2 years building that cave. It's a man-made cave, made out of granite and all these kind of things. So Ajahn Brahm this is kind of his life. He actually lives a very simple life. He's so famous, but very, very simple life. It's inspiring to see that people live so simply. He doesn't really want anything either. Whenever people, I shouldn't say this, but this is kind of a secret, so don't tell anyone else. But usually with Ajahn Brahm, it's like if someone gives him something, he says thank you very much, but actually doesn't want he doesn't want anything. Okay, I mean, he's very nice if you offer him a meal, of course, and a nice cup of tea with condensed milk, with that kind of thing. He loves that part of it, but he doesn't really want things, because it just kind of, it just clogs up, his cutie and whatever, and he doesn't have any need for things usually. And so I can always, because I'm a monk, I can see what's going on, so people give him something, and then afterwards he tells me, I didn't really want that, but anyway, I just, to take it. He does drink. He drinks 3-in-1 coffee in the morning. I told him he shouldn't be drinking 3-in-1, but Ajahn Brahm does not listen to me in the least. He does not care what I think. That's completely irrelevant to him. And so you have an empty hut, in a kind of really empty way. There is no people there, and there is no things in there, and that's kind of the ideal. If you come to my hut, what does my hut look like? I have lots of coffee in my head. People give me so much coffee here. I have this reputation, as you may have noticed, that not just here, but everywhere that reputation is. And so that means that people give me bags. Oh, Venerable, you think you need more coffee? Actually, no, I don't need any more coffee. I've got way too much already, but never mind. And then I share with my companions in the monastic life. Yeah, I'm the kind of coffee shop in the monastery. I kind of hand out coffee to all the monks, left, right, and center. And that's a really nice thing to do. It's really, really nice to be able to do that. Yeah, and usually monks are happy. Sometimes some of the monks, they're really coffee connoisseurs. So they look at my coffee and say, yeah, no, I don't want that one. Yeah. Really choosy, these coffee connoisseurs in the monastery. I can start operating a cafe, that's right, exactly. Yeah, no, I think, yeah. Yeah, anyway, so this is the idea of the empty hut, in the forest. And so when you have that, when you have an empty hut and you enjoy staying in that empty hut, it's wonderful. And this is one of the reasons that, staying in Bodhinyana Monastery, why would I want to go anywhere else? That's kind of how I often feel. I got a good teacher, a nice hut in the forest. Has anyone of you seen my hut in Bodhinyana? You haven't? Nobody's seen my hut? Okay, good. Let it remain that way. So it's kind of up on the hill. I have the best view in the monastery, $1 million view. I can sort of see the Indian Ocean. Very nice. Maybe I can sell that. That's a good point, actually. People, when I hear all the wars over here, this is probably valuable real estate. What was that? Airbnb, right, exactly. Yeah. No, so anyway, after a while you don't really see that view anymore because I've lived there for so long, but never mind. This is the idea of the empty hut. So so that's where you meditate, and then you reflect like this. Is there anything that I am overcome with internally and haven't given up, because of which I might not accurately know and see? Have you got some internal stuff, like defilements or whatever, that blocks you from knowing and seeing? That's kind of what this is saying. Do I have anything that blocks me from knowing and seeing? Remember, now you have gone to the forest. Now you have an opportunity to calm down your mind. Now you have an opportunity to see what is really happening. So now you will know whether you have this or not. Only now. In daily life, it's too busy to be able to see this. If a mendicant is overcome with sensual desire, their mind is overcome. If a mendicant is overcome with ill will, dullness and drowsiness, restlessness and remorse, doubt, pursuing speculation about the world, pursuing speculation about the next world, or arguing, quarreling and disputing, continuously warning others with barbed words. You can see why that one is relevant to this sutta. Their mind is overcome. So if you are overcome by any of these hindrances, then your mind is overcome. So what then? Well, they understand there is nothing that I am overcome with internally and haven't given up, because of which I might not accurately know and see. My mind is properly disposed for awakening to the truths. In other words, they are no longer obsessed by the 5 hindrances. They can still have the 5 hindrances, but they have given up those things that obsess the mind. So mind is no longer obsessed. And so you know, when you are a stream enterer, that you can overcome these things. You know that you cannot be obsessed by them, and for that reason you know that you also have access to samadhi whenever you want. And this is one of those things that you will know if someone is stream enterer, if they can access samadhi easily, if they can enter jhana when they go on retreat, well then they might be a stream enterer. If they cannot access the jhanas, then they're not a stream enterer, because they're not obsessed by these things anymore. That's kind of a nice and neat way of knowing how profound your meditation is. Very often, how do we measure our meditation? How do we measure our insight? How much insight have you got? And the way to measure your insight is not by looking at your mind, how clear is my mind? Because that's very distorting. You look at your mind, how much do I actually understand the Dhamma? It's very easy to trap or to fool yourself with those kind of things. So the way that you know your insight is by seeing how profound your meditation is. How profound is your samadhi? You know the depth of your insight by knowing your samadhi. Why is that? Well, because if you have deep insight, it means that you understand the defilements. You understand what is dukkha. You understand what needs to be given up. And because you understand what needs to be given up, you understand what is dukkha, you can give it up easily because you have seen it for what it actually is. And so samadhi is easily accessible. That is the nature of insight, that you understand dukkha. And understanding dukkha means you can give it up because you don't hold on to dukkha. And so that is what shows you the depth of insight, your ability to become peaceful. And for that reason, their mind is properly disposed for awakening to the truths, the Four Noble Truths, because of that. So this is the first knowledge they have achieved, that is noble and transcendent, and is distinct from that of ordinary people. It is noble and transcendent. Arya, transcendent, probably Lokuttara. I haven't looked it up, but I think it's Lokuttara probably. And is distinct, asadharana, I think Putujanehi or something like that is maybe the Pali. I'm just guessing a bit, but that's probably what it is. This is one of the ways that you know you are a stream enterer. Access samadhi, the hindrances don't obsess the mind anymore. Okay. Let us move on to the next one. Did you find the words there, anyone? Yeah, Lokuttara. Okay, so there you are. Yeah. Yeah, wow, I got it really right then. That's good. Okay. My lucky day. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. That's the first one by which you know that you are a stream enterer. Furthermore, a noble disciple reflects, when I develop, cultivate, and make much of this view, do I personally gain serenity and quenching? Yeah, samatha, the calm. Do I get that calm, that samadhi, which you're supposed to achieve on this path? When I develop, cultivate it, and make much of this view, in other words, when I go into seclusion and I remind myself of this view, does it lead to serenity, to calm? This is exactly what I was saying now, actually, already. Already been talking about this. They understand when I develop, cultivate, and make much of this view, I personally gain serenity and quenching. Yeah, when you reflect on that view, what is that view? Well, it is the view that you know where dukkha is. You know what is impermanent. You know what is non-self. You know where happiness is to be found. And so you don't look for it in the wrong place. You can let go easily because you know what is worthy of letting go and what is worthy of holding on to. What is worthy of holding on to is the refugees, that sort of thing. Yeah. And so for that reason, samadhi happens easily. You cultivate that view. You gain serenity, samatha, and quenching. What is quenching? Is it nibbutto or something? Yeah? Okay, thank you. So, this is the second knowledge that they have. Furthermore, a noble disciple reflects, are there any ascetics or Brahmins outside of the Buddhist community who have the same kind of view that I have? They understand there are no ascetics or Brahmins outside of the Buddhist community who have the same kind of view that I have. This is kind of interesting, isn't it? And what that means is that it means that if you have the right kind of view, you will incline towards the Buddhist teachings. You basically become a Buddhist because you recognize that the Buddha was the one who saw through the idea of a self, the idea of something persisting, some inherent eternally existing essence which is always there. The Buddha is the one who saw that, and it is basically outside of Buddhism. Everyone in the world, whatever they might be in terms of religion or no religion or spiritual practice or whatever it is, the general thing is to take something as inherently existing in the world, some kind of solid entity that is there. And so there are no one outside of the Buddhist teachings. This becomes your knowledge. That's kind of fascinating here. And it means that you look for wisdom within the Dhamma. You look for the wisdom in the suttas. That this becomes your mainstay. That becomes what really matters to you, because you understand where it is to be found. It's very rare to find the truth. It's very difficult for a Buddha to arise in the world. Happens very, very rarely. And it's not kind of something that just, it doesn't happen with ease. It takes a special kind of person to be able to understand these things. This is the third knowledge. Furthermore, a noble disciple reflects, do I have the same nature as a person accomplished in view? And what, mendicants, is the nature of a person accomplished in view? This is the nature of a person accomplished in view. Though they may fall into a kind of offense for which resolution is possible, they quickly disclose, clarify, and reveal it to the teacher or a sensible spiritual companion. So a person accomplished in view, the Ditthipatto is the Sotapanna, they may fall into an offense. Maybe they have a lapse in mindfulness or whatever. But if they do, they will quickly disclose it. They want to get it out of their system. They know that this is a hindrance on the path. They want to eliminate that hindrance. And so the only way to do that is to quickly confess straight away. The ego doesn't get in the way of a stream enter. For most people, they may not want to confess because the ego says, no, I'm too proud to confess. I don't want other people to know about my stupid misdemeanors. I want this to remain a private matter. But the stream mentor is not interested in that. The stream mentor is not interested in an ego which is hollow and doesn't exist in the first place. All they are interested in is in purifying themselves. That's what matters to them. That is what the Noble Eightfold Path is. And so they disclose it straight away. I have done this. Please accept my confession. That was a big mistake. I want to get rid of that. So this is kind of, again, one of those things. If you ever feel like hiding some of the things you have done, well, that is a sign that you may not be a stream mentor yet. And having revealed it, they restrain themselves in the future. So you not only do you reveal it, but you say, okay, now, from the future, I'm going to restrain myself about this. And here comes a nice simile. Suppose there was a little baby boy. If he puts his hand or foot on a burning coal, he quickly pulls it back. If you by accident put your hand or foot, you're a baby, you put your foot on a burning coal, you withdraw that hand very quickly. Or if you go into your house and you accidentally put your hand on the hot plate without knowing it has been used recently, so it's really hot, you don't have to think whether you should pull it off. You just bang, pull it back straight away, because you know otherwise you're going to injure yourself. This is kind of how they think about it. Some of the symbols are very powerful, right? It's like a burning coal. A misdemeanor, making a mistake, is like a burning coal for the mind. It's kind of powerful. We don't normally see that. It's hard to understand. This is how the stream mentor sees the world. In the same way, this is the nature of the person accomplished in view. Though they may still fall into a kind of offense for which resolution is possible, in other words, not the very most serious offenses, they don't fall into those, because then you are no longer a monastic, but for those that can be resolved, then you quickly reveal it to the teacher or the sensible spiritual companion. And having revealed it, they restrain themselves for the future. They understand, I have the same nature as a person accomplished in view. This is the fourth knowledge. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Hi, Ajahn. Going back to just now when you said about legitimate source. Legitimate means. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. My kids came to me with this idea.
Sorry, say again?
My children came to me with this idea
Yeah.
that those that obtain their wealth through wrongful means,
Yeah.
they want to scam them so that they can give it to the poor.
Yeah.
So this is like modern day Robin Hood.
Yeah.
So what is your take? Because they say, Mommy, my intention is right. I want to help the poor. And these people who got their richness is through misusing and abusing the weak.
Yeah.
So they have a noble intention. However,
they have two intentions. One is to take it from the other one. The other one is to give it to the other ones. There's two different intentions. One of them is bad. The other one is good. So you have to divide it up. When you divide it up, you see there's two different things going on. So this is what also elsewhere the Buddha talks about. You are generous. You are generous with your legitimately acquired wealth. If you are generous with things that you have stolen or that you have got illegitimately, it doesn't have the same power. It reduces that sense of this is when it feels this is really mine because I worked for it. It's a different feeling of giving it up because it really feels like it is yours. But if it's something that you have acquired in a wrongful way, you never really feel it is yours in quite the same way. And so giving it up also has a different feeling.
Because they feel like they are doing justice,
Yeah,
but the one that did the wrong, they shouldn't. They cannot understand why those that does wrongful acts are still, they are still rich. They are untouchable. However, those that walk the right path, they are always poor, and they are always stepped on.
I don't think that's always true. It's not all the rich people are necessarily bad. There are some people who are fairly well off who have done it in a good way. It varies. It varies. We can never really assume. I think that's going too far to think like that. And there are, and so I think, but it doesn't really. What is more interesting to me is not whether you're rich or poor, but whether you're happy or not. And very often the happiness doesn't come from those kind of things anyway. Often the happiest people can be the poor people. And so it's not about stealing for one. It's ensuring that they are happy in one way or another is far more significant. Of course, if they are dying because they can't afford to eat, then of course it is a real problem. And then we need to do something. But the answer is not to steal from the rich, because this is you are doing one good thing and one bad thing at the same time, and each one of those have separate karma related to them. So you need to separate them out. Then you can understand the karma in that kind of situation.
Okay, I'll try to explain. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ajahn?
Yes.
Regarding the harmony, sharing the precepts. From what I understand, it's very hard for two different people to even share the same view on precepts. So, to what extent do we say, this person he's too different, so we cannot be in the same community? So, is it like a cut-off point, like? Okay, we share the same view on this class Parajika Sanghati Sesa, or how do you determine? I'm with the committee that share the same more or less the same precepts to the extent that we can be harmonious, living in harmony.
Yeah, it certainly means sharing the same idea of the Parajikas and Sanghati Sesa offenses, but it also means things like. The minimum they should keep the 10 precepts that are found in the for the novices. So you shouldn't be lying. You also shouldn't be keeping money. That's usually one that kind of makes a distinction in communities. because in Perth we don't use money personally. If someone comes who kind of has money, it kind of corrupts that idea a little bit and makes it more difficult to follow that after a while. Yeah, it dilutes the idea of these things. So not using money tends to be one of those that is often kind of looked upon as an important distinction. So yeah, that is actually the one that kind of most often comes up, because the Parajikas, most monastics will keep. Sanghadisesas, I don't know any monastics who deliberately don't keep the Sanghadisesas. I'm sure they exist, but it's not not that common. So it tends to turn around this kind of things like money rules. Yeah.
Okay. What about like for example, if you are talking about money rules, is a bit more complicated nowadays, because like for example, if a monk needs to travel by public transportation,
yeah,
and nowadays we have this how to say, touch and go card, which is used to pay for the public transportation. So let's say a monk needs to go by public transportation,
yeah,
and he keeps that card, and that card can be used to make a lot of purchases. Is that a form of money?
Can you use it? You can use it for purchases, can you?
Purchases of other goods and services.
Oh, really?
But then it's mostly, I mean,
yeah.
primarily.
Yes,
the most primary focus usually is for public transportation, but then it can become a form of another form of cash. So if let's say a monk use that to go for public transportation, is that consider breaking the keeping money rules?
I think different monasteries will treat these things in different ways. It depends how you do things. For example, in Perth, we have a credit card for the monastery, for example. And the monastery has a credit card, and it's actually owned by the Buddhist Society. There's a Buddhist Society account. And so then, it goes through the Buddhist Society in a sense. And then if you need something, instead of asking the lay people to do it, you use a credit card to buy something for the not personally for the monks, but for the monastery. It's used for the monastery. And it simplifies this whole idea. So, and that is based on what it means to use money according to the Vinaya. The Vinaya using money means that you use you use your own money to buy something for yourself. And here you're not doing that. The Buddhist Society is money given for the purpose of the monastery to buy things for the monastery. And so that is kind of falls within what is not considered buying or using money. So it depends on the situation. And so this is kind of the thing. And so in your case, if that credit card, if you're buying it for something for yourself, is usually not considered a good idea, because at that moment you are using things as money for your own satisfaction or whatever it is. That's kind of where it gets difficult. So it's kind of complicated when it comes to those kind of things, because it's what is money now? What was money 2,500 years ago? It's a different matter. So yeah.
Thank you for clarification, Ajahn.
Yeah.
Ajahn, I have a question.
Please.
Does everyone need to become a stream entry before they can enter enlightenment? And my friend used to tell me that you have to practice in a way so that later you will be reborn in the pure land. Yeah, okay. And then after that, the Buddha will come and teach you, and then you can get enlightened. So is that the same thing as stream entry? If sometimes when things are too good to be true, they sound like they're too good to be, but they actually are too good to be true. And I think the Pure Land idea is a much later idea developed in Buddhism, maybe hundreds of years after the Buddha's time they developed, and it is based on ideas that are completely foreign to the Pali canon. The Buddha never said these things, so who exactly said it? We don't even know who said it. If you don't know who said it, should you follow it? Probably not. So I don't think this is a good idea to follow those kind of doctrines or whatever. Is it necessary to be a stream mentor before you become an arahant? Generally, the answer is yes. You have to go through the various stages. Maybe there are some circumstances where you can become an arahant more or less directly. It looks a bit like the Buddha became an arahant directly, right? But the Buddha is kind of unique. There are certain suttas, like a sutta with Bahya, who seem to become an arahant very quickly. But even in those cases, it's not entirely clear whether you kind of quickly go through the other ones or you go straight to arahantship. But generally speaking, I would say yes, you have to become a stream mentor first, because it is a smaller step. It's a bit like saying, if you travel from here to you have to go via all the other cities on the way to a goal. Can you go directly? Well, maybe you can in certain cases, but very often you have to go via these other things to get there. What is a good thing? Can I go straight to university, or should I go through high school first, right? Well, maybe you can go straight to university, but it's kind of advisable to go to high school first. If you go straight from kindergarten to university, you might have some problems.
Okay, thank you, Ajahn. So I take it that an arahant is an enlightened being, but it's not a Buddha?
The Buddha is an arahant, but an arahant is not necessarily a Buddha. Yeah, the difference between Buddha and arahant is just that the Buddha discovered it first. But discovering it first is really hard. Yeah, I mean, we are given the path. The Buddha found it on his own. That's kind of amazing, a very, very big difference in terms of your spiritual faculties and these kind of things. Yeah.